The following podcast contains explicit mom language. Discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome to the No Bullshit Moms podcast, where we dive into the world of motherhood with a twist. Join us as we explore the unfiltered, unapologetic, and sometimes controversial side of being a mom. From parenting fails to hot takes on the latest trends, we're here to keep it real and push the boundaries of traditional motherhood. So grab your coffee, put on your favorite pair of mom jeans, and get ready to embrace your inner edgy mom.
She's fancy, I'm trashy as Together, we're keeping it classy. Let's dive in.
Welcome, No Bullshit Mom.
Welcome, welcome.
You've been dying to hit that button.
I have been dying so hard to hit that button.
So today we have a guest. We are having I'm going to call him our Drew the cameraman. That's what we call you. But maybe you're like our podcast producer. Maybe.
Well, you would have to be executive producer, and I would be a regular producer. The regular producer is the one that does like dirty,
Shit work?
Yeah,
You do the
yeah.
shit work.
Yeah, I do the shit work, and you're the one that's like more, above everyone else.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because Mindy just shows up.
I just show up, guys. They just tell me where and how what we're talking about, and I'm just there. I'm not even the one that creates the memes or does anything. I'm just the shower-upper.
Yeah, you are. So yeah, we're going to have Drew on our podcast. We previously had an episode on growing up gay and how we would handle if our kids came out gay and how we would feel about it, how we would react to it, how we would try to handle it. Not that we really know how we would handle it, but we would try to handle it the way that we said that we would. So yeah.
Yeah, so Drew, we wanted to talk to you about coming out gay and how it was handled within your family unit. I have my own story, which we can talk about, but tell me, was it an accepting environment or a rough one for you?
I would say a rough one.
Rough one?
Yeah.
And how was it rough? No, like elaborate on that. Like, how was it rough? Because, like, what did your parents say?
You're like, how was it rough?
We're continuing on.
We're just going with it.
We're continuing on here. Like, I'll start first. So when I first came out gay, I anticipated the worst. I did. I came from a religious family. I thought, oh shit, this is where, that disowning aspect was going to take place because we see it so much. But for my experience, my parents were very open to it. First, they were kind of reserved. It took maybe a year, 2 years until they were super comfortable having my significant other in the picture and accepting it. But my siblings were all okay with it. I mean, it was awkward, but I didn't feel ashamed for being gay. So from my experience, I had it easy. And I'm curious to know, you say yours is rough. I'm curious to know what that looked like.
Right. I had honestly anticipated, the worst, and I did get that. So I had many specific, strategic plans with it. I waited until 18 because I figured, if I am going to be on the streets, I want to have full control over my decisions and all of that,
And also be like a legal adult.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I could just start my life over. Also, I did not like the complications that would happen if I had come out, left, and possibly been living in a different city and then school. So me picking 18 was really two birds, one stone, because I really knew that if things were going to go the way I anticipated it with my family, it would be the exact same way, but worse in high school.
So you really anticipated that your parents would kick you out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I was not going to continue going to school if it didn't go well, because I knew You know, my family all went to a pretty decently wealthy but conservative school, high school, and everybody kind of knew each other. So I went to school with generations of people in the same families. So, I mean, I even had classmates, you know, who were like the siblings, classmates of my oldest sister who had graduated like 3 years before I even came to the school. There were way too many connections there. I wanted to cut that out too if it didn't work.
Well, I have a question because you say that you anticipated that you would be kicked out for coming out gay. Was anything said previously that gave you that feeling?
Prior to me coming out, or?
Yeah, before you came out, you had built up, it seems, a lot of this fear. You know, coming out gay, and you were already anticipating being kicked out. So you were strategically setting a plan for yourself.
Right.
But I'm just curious if before why you started to create this plan, was there something said within your family unit that planted that you weren't going to be accepted? Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. So the interesting thing is I did not grow up in a family that like picketed gay veteran funerals and stuff like that, you know, but I did grow up in a family where the only exposure to people who were gay was on the television. And any time that exposure happened to the degree that it was obvious, you know, it had to be brought up instead of just being like, oh yeah, he's just a weird character. Then
was it almost like a mocking, like they would mock the person?
So that would depend on what the media was. Like, so for instance, you can think of the birdcage. Now that I've done drag for 11 plus years, I no longer find it funny. I don't find it offensive at all, but I no longer find the movie funny just because I'm like, yeah, it really is that dramatic. But for example, in my family growing up, we saw that, and gay people were kind of this mythical thing implied in my family, almost like they didn't really actually exist. They were kind of a joke. Like nobody seriously was in a gay relationship. It was same gender people doing it as a joke.
Like it was real, but it was like your parents just, or your family just saw it as like, oh, that's not something that really does happen.
Correct.
Okay.
So it was, so for that example of like the birdcage, my family enjoyed that movie, thought it was absolutely hilarious because it wasn't realistic and like, look how funny and stupid and, you know, not serious this is. Granted, that movie, ironically, is actually trying to give them that message to disarm hatred. But a lot of families, sometimes it's not necessarily overt hatred that's happening. It's just not taking it seriously. So I honestly didn't really think that, one, I didn't know what gay people were until late junior high. That's when I still just thought that like sometimes men pretend to be interested in men for fun, but it didn't really happen. Like it was just things that people claimed.
Yeah.
It was really weird growing up in that because you were never around it. And then when it would pop up on the TV, it was never mentioned. It was ignored. And then into young adulthood, that's when you start picking up on comments that your parents are saying. So, for instance, a movie is on and a very flamboyant gay character comes on. And then you hear the comment of course, they have to have one of these in it. Not necessarily saying, you know, like that is wrong, but just those comments. And it reminds you of the fact that your family probably 100% subscribes to the same opinion that was said during church that Sunday when they are talking about homosexuality being an abomination and that it has no place in the church. So with me growing up in an active LDS family, even if it's neutral or just slightly negative comments in passing, it's still just as damaging because I'm already assuming it by default based off of the religion that my family subscribes to, but I would not be welcome. And so then just those little comments, nail in the coffin.
So you were 18 when you came out?
Yes.
How old were you, Mindy?
Well, I think for me, I knew that I was gay when I was in my teens, like on 12 maybe, is when I started seeing a difference. But I didn't actually come out gay until my 20s. It took me a while, but it wasn't because I was ashamed. I was going through the self-discovery, you know? I mean, it's not something you just wake up and you're like, oh, I'm gay. Guess what, everybody? I'm gay. You know, I'm here to stay. You go through it, you know, like you have to process it within yourself to really define that before you can just open that can of worms and say I'm gay. Because once you come out gay, you ain't going back in that closet and you're just gonna make yourself look stupid. So mine wasn't out of fear. Mine was just making sure it was who I really was. And I dabbled before I came out fully.
Yeah. It kind of, I find it interesting whenever somebody talks about coming out or just knowing that they were gay at any age younger than like 18, just because I'm not sure. There's probably a chance that if I had known what gay was before, you know, mid-junior high, like truly, then maybe I would have come to that conclusion for myself earlier. But I also feel like I did fall into a category of child that, just throw this cat out of the bag, that my conversion therapist brought up to me.
I did some conversion therapy too.
Yeah. But his theory.
Hold on.
What?
I'm straight. So they don't conversion therapy straight people.
Well, no, that's gay people's job. We're supposed to convert you.
So conversion therapy.
Although I can't convert you because you already love dick.
That's true.
Yeah. I could only make you more straight.
Conversion therapy for me was they basically, my parents did it like without judgment, right? But because you're brought up religious, I think that's kind of what the bishop recommends, that anyone that does come out gay, that they try conversion therapy. And you go in and it is usually with a therapist that is LDS. And they kind of just try to convince you that what you're feeling is, for me, it was what I was feeling was coming of the adversary. And it was part of the adversary is what was drilled into my head. And that terrified me. And I started to believe it for a little bit because it is kind of brainwashed. You are brainwashed into believing that stuff. But I didn't do it long because I finally looked at her and I said, this ain't gonna work. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I gave it my best shot. But Drew, I'm interested. And
well, so you and I must have had complete opposite experiences with conversion therapy too.
Yeah, mine wasn't rough, but I also wasn't in it. I just kind of showed up. But I was the girl that was dead set on going on an LDS mission. I wanted to go on a mission. I wanted to do all this stuff. I had picked out the temple I wanted to be married in. I mean, I was very active. And in fact, it was very hard because I was so active in the church and then being gay. I didn't know how to bring the two together. But I wasn't ashamed of being gay. I went in and I mean, I think there was one time, knowing me, I got up to bear my testimony and I bluntly just outed myself. And everybody just went like stone cold quiet, like the hell is going on right now? And I smiled like, you know what? I'm proud. I'm proud of myself because I got to that point within myself that, you know what? I am who I am and I don't need you guys to like me.
Yeah.
But I still love my faith. So at that point, I wanted to stay in my faith, but still remain who I was. And the bishop at the time was totally okay with it. You know, the only thing he said is don't bring another woman with you and hold hands and have PDA within this church thing. But I had a great experience. But I'm curious, Drew. So when we talk about coming out, I'm interested. How did you sit your parents down and just say, I'm gay? Or how did you do it? How did you tell your family you were gay?
Well, that was the one part that didn't go as planned. So most young closeted gay men go through this phase, which is once you've figured out like what you are, you're curious, you're exploring it. And I had extreme social anxiety that turned into extreme depression at the time. And I was going through therapy. And that's when the therapist wasn't able to figure out why I couldn't. Like I was getting sick during every prom and every morp because lo and behold, it's when all the girls are expecting to go with somebody. And I was very, very popular amongst the ladies at school. But because I wanted to be their friends, I hung out with the
not because
ladies.
they were like, oh, Drew.
Right.
They were like, oh, Drew.
Right. And I'm not saying I was hot shit like they were into me. I did have some ladies that were into me, but you know,
I think those ladies have figured out some things for themselves.
Yeah. Well, right. I honestly did. I literally was a mutual beard with a girl more once. Like,
I just find that so sad.
and we both were not completely aware.
I do. I just find that really sad as a straight person to think that I just wouldn't want my kid to hide. I wouldn't want them to feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other problem is that, I mean, I'm sure maybe high schools are different. I don't really think so much right now still, but it definitely was not possible for you to go to a dance with the same gender at my high school.
Yeah.
Not even possible.
So did you feel rejected from anyone in your family, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah. So the immediate reaction, I was exploring and got to the point of borrowing my mother's car, went on a camping trip with a guy, said that I was on a camping trip with a bunch of friends. My mother had reached out to one of those friends because I had forgotten something or what have you. And that friend didn't know what she was talking about. But he lied for me anyway and said, oh yeah, no, he's here. But she sensed it. She figured out, okay, yeah, no, he's not really hanging out with his friends. So we had the police department for multiple cities looking for her car.
Oh shit.
And eventually they found me up a canyon in a tent, naked with a guy.
You were found by a police officer naked?
No, I believe
Or
I was,
your mom?
if I remember right, I was found by my mom.
Ooh.
My memory is
There
very,
you go.
my memory is very shoddy back
I'm
then.
gay.
But
Surprise, Mom.
right,
No,
so
I wanted to tell you. Fear. I'm feeling
Yeah.
that fear for you right now, bro.
I really, image-wise, I see everything when you're saying it, and I just got a picture of you. I don't think I ever really wanted.
It's like that movie. What's that movie about those two gay guys that are secret and they go into the...
Brokeback Mountain.
oh my
That's
God.
what your life is.
Sure, it was Brokeback Mountain it.
Oh,
See, for me, I don't, there was no rejection. I think the only rejection I got was from myself.
yeah.
I think I spent a good portion of, everyone was so accepted, but I rejected myself for a minute.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that wasn't even me coming out because it wasn't believed.
What do they think was going on in that tent? You were staying warm? What did you tell
No,
them, Drew?
I have no clue what they were
And
thinking.
that was your
but
act.
I thought that they found out, and then boom, I didn't have to say anything. Yeah, it was devastating and everything, but okay, it's all done. Now we just don't have to talk about it. But no, I ended up having to go to my next therapy appointment, which also was in an eating disorder clinic. And my older sister, who was getting services there, I believe that her therapist was talking to mine because if I remember right, there was a little bit of a theory from my therapist, which was that, statistics are showing that with your weight being so low, and you acting a certain way and you having all these social anxieties around these dances and stuff. And I mean, now that we have had our new therapist appointment with me mentioning to him that I was caught naked in a tent with a guy, pretty much added to his conclusion of, okay, you're gay and this is why you're here. You have this crippling anxiety and depression because you're hiding this from yourself, let alone everybody else.
Did you accept that? Were you?
Yes.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the poor guy had never been in that kind of situation before. And he was also very LDS.
Well, I would say back then, I mean, it wasn't really like right now it's around every corner, but way back in the day, I mean, it wasn't very common. I mean, it was there. I think there was just as many of us out there. We just were more in the closet. We didn't speak about it.
Especially down in Utah
It was
County.
new to him. Like, what do we do?
Yeah. So he recommended a few places, and my father found like the best, specialist or highest recommended conversion therapist to go to, because what happened from here on was I didn't want to talk about it, but that therapist had them come in and me tell them that I was gay. I couldn't form those words. So instead, what I finally formed after 30 minutes of him trying to get me to talk to them was I am struggling with issues of homosexuality. That was the best I could word to them. So then they brought me to this specialist. He sat me down. He told me I have different views than most professionals in this industry. He said, like, I believe that you don't choose to be gay. I believe that you can be born with it or environmental factors. He said that he doesn't believe anyone's born gay or straight. He said it has everything to do with what you were exposed to during your puberty and development. Environmental and, DNA factors have to do with that. And once you have now gone into that path subconsciously, he said there is a way to kind of consciously control it, but you can't subconsciously become straight after that. It's not possible.
Yeah.
You can't trick your brain into switching after you've already subconsciously, unintentionally made that happen. So anyway, he talked to me about statistics, about how, you're this higher of a chance to have this terrible thing happen to you. You're this higher of a chance to have this terrible thing happen to you. Being an openly gay man. These are all of the statistics that are up against you and your life and your likelihood of success. And then he said, but I want the one choice that you can make in your life to take place in this room. You tell me if you want to try to learn how to control these behaviors and put them aside, if you want to do that for your religion or your family or yourself. And he's like, or you tell me that you want to be an openly gay man, and I will be here for the next appointments to talk to you about how you can live the most healthiest life as a openly gay man possible.
I got to say something about that therapist. I feel he was a damn good one.
Yeah.
For him to give you the options and not persuade you in any direction and fully let you choose, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he pulled the same thing as my previous therapist right after that, though. Once I made my decision, he said, okay, let's bring in mom and dad and let's tell them.
Was he there when you told your parents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was your parents' reaction?
So I don't even really remember, honestly.
Do you remember what the vibe was?
Oh, the vibe was tense. Like
you could cut it with a spoon.
Yeah, I would say I do remember my dad nodding, and he might have said something. I mean, I'm sure he didn't say anything wrong, though. I don't remember anything my mom might have said. Honestly, I don't really think she said anything. But after that, I no longer got more appointments from him. I guess.
I think you spoke too soon, Min.
Yeah. Well, no.
Time for a new therapist, mom and dad said.
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty much over with. And so after that, that's when it came to the aftermath at home. I was pretty much in lockdown 24 hours a day. Like I had a job at the time.
Like you were grounded or like?
Well, it was adult grounded. So It was more like there was someone there with their eyes on me, literally at every moment. So
what were they afraid you were going to do?
I don't know.
I mean, you couldn't have gone and knocked anyone up.
I was very emotionally distraught, and they could tell that. So there could have been concern about me killing myself. But honestly, the one thought that I had the entire time that, I even had my mother sleeping in the foot of my bed every night. And, somebody on the other side of the bathroom door when I was going to the bathroom. My parents would show up in the parking lot when I was at work because I was working as a cart pusher at Walmart at the time.
Do they think being gay means you're like a serial killer?
Well, I don't really know.
That's a little extreme.
So here's a theory that me and Mindy came up with yesterday, right? Remember when we were talking about this? Do you think that, how do I put it? Remember it was like, do you think the way your parents handled it made you more, hey, I'm gay to the world?
Like long after that? Or in that immediate?
Like a fuck you, parents. I'm going to show everyone I'm gay.
It actually went deeper for me than that.
Yeah.
Because, I was a flight risk at that point of them clamping down and then they had sets of rules like no nail polish, no makeup, no nothing. You can't talk to another man on your phone. We will take your phone, read the texts, and then if somebody texts you, we will ask you what you want us to say to them. So, and because we pay for the phone, and if you're going to stay in this house, this is how you're going to act. So that is the new form of kicking a child out now.
Okay.
So
you do know now,
yeah,
as a grown adult, that entire experience was not okay.
no,
The way that they try to control the situation was wrong.
right.
I mean, I cannot imagine. I mean, I came out gay and I went to my girlfriend's house the same night. I texted him, I'm gay. Okay. Isn't that right?
No, you didn't. Did you?
Yeah. I texted her on the phone and I told her I was gay. She said, you need to come home and talk. I said, there's nothing to talk about. I'm gay. Okay. I'm going over to her house. She goes, when you get home tomorrow, we're going to talk. She was more, our parents seem to want to control the situation. Right? Like, let's control this, like this is our son, this is our daughter. Obviously, they don't want that life for someone they love, but that was controlling it too much. And all that was doing was almost planting seeds in your head that who you are was wrong or damaged or broken.
Well, and it's like what that therapist said to me. If your parents are trying to control that situation, when you already barely have any control or help or support, really what they are doing is they're guaranteeing your failure because you need their help to achieve a quality life with that new information that they were given. And trying to clamp
the whole
down
situation,
with control.
I'm sorry, I'm irritated. The whole situation irritates me. And I have to be honest, and I know we're on a podcast, but that's not okay.
I'm just going to say, so me and Mindy are sharing a mic today because we have a guest on the podcast. We are both squirming, okay? Not in a good way. As you're saying this, we literally are squirming in our seats.
Well, I have more.
I know. I can tell. And I mean, from the podcast that me and Mindy did just previously, talking about how we would like to handle it if our kids come out that way. But also, this hurts.
It's the importance of parents having that conversation before it happens that prevents that.
Well, yeah, but it's also educating the hell out of yourself because this is the reality that kids will be this way.
Right.
But Dar, and not to change the subject, but I'm going to change it for just a minute. Because I can.
Because she does.
When we talk about hurting and criticism, let's talk about you for just a sec. Because how often do you get labeled as being gay as a straight woman? Do you feel, and the microphone's going all over the place, do you feel that you get bullied by looking gay? Because you put you and I in the same room, people are going to think you're the gay one and I'm the straight one. In reality, it's reverse. But being your best friend, I have witnessed how often people think you really are gay. It's all over. You get it all over, right?
Well, yeah, I get it every single day of my life. Drew, you and I work together. We've worked together in various places. How often does it happen?
All the time.
Yeah, it happened.
To you or to me about you.
I feel like they say it more about me, even though you're wearing nail polish and eyeliner.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel like...
Well, they assume I would be the one to know. But it's like... It makes me tempted
judgment all around.
Well, yeah, it makes me tempted to be like, oh, no, she's my girlfriend. Like...
Oh, man, that'd be a weird relationship. You know what, though?
I'm a woman. It's just, there's like some prolapsing down there. That's why it sticks out.
I'm just going to say it, though. I've received a lot of, everywhere I go, somebody assumes I'm gay. Do I find it offensive? No. I think there are times when it can be offensive given the circumstances of where I am.
Right.
And the situation at hand of when it has happened in certain places that it has. But I don't find it to be offensive because I feel like every time that I get to say it, I feel like I educated somebody else on being like, looks are not what they seem. And just because I have a mohawk does not mean that I'm gay.
Right.
And just because,
Especially it's baffling to me in 2024 that people are still making that assumption because it's like, hey, there are so many straight women wearing that kind of hairstyle.
Well, no fairness, 2024, it's unlike any other year any of us have experienced because we also now have to be very careful on any of it because you got the that some people don't even identify as any freaking gender. And so
Yeah.
I feel like when we go out into public and we look at somebody and we're like, okay, I think that's a girl. But we can't even say that they are a girl, because they go by them or their or they, and so there's just a lot of judgment right now because the shit's getting complicated. It really is. Like, I feel like we can wake up and just say, hey, I'm going to be a cow. Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to lay here and y'all are going to milk me because that's what you do to cows. Or, I saw this funny sticker, and not that sexuality is funny, but my car, I saw this and I about pooped my pants because it says on the front of the car, I identify as being registered. Okay. And if we are identifying as whatever the hell we want, then we should be able to do that. I am a rich woman, or I am poor and I identify as being rich. Like, we can choose what we want to be these days, which
if you're going to identify as being rich, doesn't that just mean you're identifying as being in debt?
It's one and the same. Okay. Perspective. But you know what I'm trying to say? There is judgment all over. And I think some people don't know what to think when they see somebody.
What I would say is if you want to identify as a rich woman, as a poor woman, the only common courtesy you should do to society is to look like a rich woman, because then people can safely assume and no offense is made. But how does one give off the impression to you that they are a them? The microphone just popped out.
Got some ghosts here in the house. Well, it's just hard because it's like they don't give me. I don't look at people and go, "What are you? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you a they, a cow? What are you?" I don't look at people, but you know what I mean. It's just 2024. It's just they're adding.
Yeah, I think
it's getting complicated to the point that as a member of the quote unquote LGBT community,
the LGBT,
what it's doing for people like
YZ.
What it's doing for people like you and I, Drew, that live very normal lives, that are just out being ourselves. It's it's making people of religion look at us and think, is that how they live their mother effing?
Well,
no,
it used to be LGB community.
LGB, and then we've added the T, and we got the Q, we got the double.
Yeah, well,
double
LGB,
W's, the 2 2s, divide something.
LGB, it was all about sexual orientation. Adding the T created gender identity in the mix. Now, LGB has nothing to do with your gender identity. It's very much the opposite. We aren't embracing one side of a gender because we break the gender norm by a woman dating a woman or a man dating a man. And then transgender people, they have always been friends of the gay community. So that's arguably so why that was added, but they still are very, very different communities. Gender identity versus sexual orientation.
Okay, and then I'm following you on this, but tell me for just a minute, okay, how in the hell does a pig and a cow and a cat get put into my goddamn flag?
That I would not know because
that has nothing to do with dating a woman or dating a man. That to me has nothing to do with your sexual orientation.
Now we also have race added to the rainbow, and
which is fine. I understand that, but I want to go back to the day when the rainbow flag was just one big symbol. Now I have recently found out in the last couple of years that being a gay woman, I've got my own flag, but I have my own flag for being a gay white woman, and a gay black woman has a completely different flag. And that to me is just starting a whole nother division. We need to just come together as one, and we have the rainbow flag that represents equality in itself for white people, for gay people, for everybody. It's equality itself. I do not like the fact that there is 100 different flags out there, and then I have to figure out what they are by the goddamn flag that they're raising in their front yard.
Well, and I would say it has to do strictly with the rise of social media because all of the gay bars are dead for the most part. The gay dating apps, unless you count just hookup apps, everybody is on social media and online. No one's seeing each other in person. So they need to have that microcosm of a category for a team to be on, and then be us versus them, with all of the arguments and inner fighting.
Malcolm, he sings that song that's got, you know the song, right? when I think of equality, maybe I am
Same
just
love.
complete opposite. Yes, listen to that song. When I think of equality in general, I feel that we are making it so damn complicated to the hell, right? I can't even attend the Pride Parade, okay? And I am a proud gay woman. I am a gay woman with a daughter with a woman.
Well,
I
and
am
you
not in the
having
closet whatsoever. But when I am out there to support my life, to be proud for just that one day where you can, I am
Yeah.
so freaking sick of seeing a cow walk in the parade because it's offensive to me and the progress and the growth and how I had to go through my life being a gay woman. That cow, I am not sharing a goddamn flag with somebody who thinks they're a freaking cow. I can't do it. I won't do it. You want to be transgender, you want to be bisexual, you want to be pansexual, anything that has to do with your sexual orientation and what you prefer. Being a cow and dating a human is not a sexual orientation. It's not. They need to have their own. Can we kick them off and have them their own identity crisis flag? Because that's an identity crisis. Being gay is not an identity crisis. Being gay is just who we simply are. Being an animal is an identity crisis. And I even heard, and I could be wrong, they are putting pedophiles. They are saying pedophiles.
That one's not true.
Is that not true? Because
it's
I
not
was
true.
living, I was ready to set my own goddamn fire at that point.
Yeah, no. That one's not true.
Okay, because I read that. Did you read that though? And
Yes,
I was
I've
like,
read that
hell
plenty
no,
of
that's
times.
not a sexual orientation, okay?
Right.
Like, but it's complicated. It's getting complicated. It's getting too much. And we truly wonder why there's so much judgment placed. Now, if they could just follow me around with a camera, they would see that I am a very normal gay woman living my life the same way as everybody else, okay? And I use a toilet, not a litter box. So you all know where I'm going with this, right? It makes me live it as a gay woman. It is portraying my family in the opposite direction that it needs to. And then I have a child that's going out into this world, and then I don't know what their friends are viewing. You guys use litter boxes? Or do you guys go outside in the grass? No, we're humans. We use the fucking toilet. Do you know what I mean? I'm gay. I'm not an animal.
Yeah.
That's what my parents are saying. And then then I sit back and I really wonder why people have a hard time with gay people, because look at the way that's being portrayed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, you're good.
But, to start, Drew,
Everyone needs a little bit drama.
I know we had with things that has been said. So Drew and I have had a conversation before we finish the episode. Drew and I had a conversation, and we thought that we would educate some listeners on things not to say to a gay person using things that have been said directly to Drew. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read what's been said to him, and he will say what should have been said to him by that person in that circumstance. So I have a list here with things that have been said to Drew directly. And so I'm going to act like the bully or the other person, and I'm going to say those statements. And then after I say that statement, Drew is going to correct it on what could have been said and should have been said that would have helped him. That would have been the nicer fucking thing to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to start. So I love you no matter what.
They should have said, I love you.
I'm scared for you.
They should have said, thank you for being comfortable enough to confide in me. What else can I do to support you?
I love the sinner, not the sin.
That person shouldn't have said shit.
That person just should have kept their mouth shut. Hardcore. I don't agree with your lifestyle, but I love you.
That one should have said, welcome to the family.
I can relate to you because I struggle with alcohol, and that also is a disease.
That person should have said, I love you, or they should have just taken their drink somewhere else.
To compare it, a sexuality to a disease makes me bleh.
Yeah.
Finding out that you're gay has been harder on me than if you died in a car accident. The fuck? Someone said that to you?
Probably should have said, I love you.
Why haven't you killed yourself yet?
That one should have told me that she wanted a medium with a Coke.
Explain. Explain.
That was when I was working at McDonald's. Ironically, it was right after the Payson Temple open house that I ushered for. I went to my shift, and then an old lady in her nice fancy Sunday clothes coming back out of that temple. She looked at me. She saw my nail polish as I was asking her what they wanted. So she started ordering and then she's like, glares at me and she's just like, are you gay? I was like, yeah, what size did you want your number to? And she's,
Oh my God.
and she turned to her husband. Yeah, she turned to her husband and then they just kept scowling at each other and looking at me. And I was like, what size do you want it? Small, medium, or large? And then she just looked at him one more time, then looked at me and was like, why haven't you killed yourself yet? I mean, eventually I just put it in as a medium with the Coke. That's why I wanted that to be what she said.
So I have one last question for you. And I want to know, if you could have given your parents any advice when you were coming out, what would it have been?
I mean, probably what could have helped them at that time was realizing that any fear or stress or shock that they were going through, I was going through, multiplied to a degree they could not ever imagine and will never imagine. Because even if they were 100% accepting, I would have been scarred from that moment, regardless. Most children do not actually truly think that their parents accept them after them telling them that, even if they are 100% embracing of it. And that's just the sad truth.
And if you could give your younger self advice, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
That would be to not have met up with a man online and borrowed my mother's minivan. I would not have made up a camping trip, but I would have saved up money and bought myself a phone plan a lot slower, thinking about it, instead of buying an extremely expensive plan through Walmart when I was working there at the time to try to get my own phone so I could leave. You know, like a lot of financial decisions I could have made if I had gone slower. I think in general, the whole issue of borrowing my parents' car was definitely something I would have told myself, do not do that. You have plenty of years to be a slut later. Find a place to live first so you're not homeless.
See, I think, for me, some younger advice when it comes to being a gay woman, I'd like to tell myself it gets easier. It gets better. When you're young like that and you're coming out, it's life changing, but shit gets easier, gets better, and find some fucking grace for yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to learn to grow that thick skin and know that you are who you are. And if they don't like it, that's their freaking issue, right?
Right.
But Drew, I know your story doesn't end here. We want to have you back on the podcast to talk about something a little heavier. Next time, we previously had talked about doing this episode with you, but since you and Daria are super close, we thought since this is something you both have experienced together, and it also continues this episode, we're going to have you back on and talk about suicide and your experience there.
Okie dokie.
I'm not looking forward to that episode, but I think it's something I want to bring awareness to, and I want people to know my story and your story. I think it's something that will help a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I hope we shined a light on these past 2 episodes on these topics and made people think how they're going to help their child if their child does come out to be part of the LGBT community, and educate yourself. Like, educate yourself on how to handle it, educate yourself on how not to handle it, and
And remember, folks, when you say something, it stays with that person, even when you don't think it does. And that goes for everyone, not just within the LGBT, HIJK, LMNOP community. But thanks, everybody, for listening. Please stay tuned.
And thank you for coming on the pod.
Oh, as always, I don't know.
Well, and thank you for editing.
I'm always on the pod. I'm always listening to it.
Thanks for just existing and being the gay man that you are.
And I'm always cutting out your guys' weird vocal tics.
All right. Well, until next time. Bye, guys.